The shape of our cities will determine the shapes of our life. And the shape of our life is the shape of our future. We believe a home is a dream for people, and the city is a dream.
The space never disappears. A great space 500 years back is still the same great space today, but in a different way.
We believe in building great cities. Cities that are unique, special, memorable, sustainable. Great cities are great because they have special places. But places are special because they attract the people. So it all goes back to build cities around people.
I believe Limitless is at the cutting edge now of a group of developers that are beginning to understand that the old paradigm, the city as a manifestation of the automobile, is not the right approach, is not the right philosophy. To come in and say, no, we really need to create communities for a huge range of people that function for their whole lives, that have parks and schools and cultural facilities and neighborhood centers and all the things that make daily life real and all the things that begin to make people feel like they live as part of a community.
We've known Saeed for a long time, and so when he asked us to work with him, it was really a wonderful idea. What's important is that you create environments where people are comfortable, where they're happy, and where you have really 24-hour life. So that to have a project where we mix residential and office and so on together, and then to create an outdoor space where people can get together.
There need to be mixed-use places. There need to be places where people can come down from their building and literally stroll a block or two and do most of the things they want to do, go to cafes, buy their food and what have you, run errands, see friends. But still, they need that walking environment. And that's a mixed-use environment. That's a place where you add jobs and housing and shops and recreation all together.
Because when dealing with city, you have to get it right first time. It has to be unique. If you make a small error, I would not say even a mistake, you would have to live with that, regardless whether it's environmental, economical, social, traffic, cultural, you name it. You have to live with that city over the next 400 to 500 years. Future generation will never forgive us if we don't build a proper city today.
We believe in putting a dream team together. Talent doesn't have a nationality. We have to learn from each other. Each one of us is an expert or has got certain area of expertise and strength. If we can put all of our brain together and learn from each other, then we create that kind of a super experience of many years by which we can really reflect it in our development.
Now, Limitless is the pioneer of developing cities with the motto as they have, let's think out of the box so we don't end up living in it. Therefore, their goal is to move people as opposed to move cars. And that gives us much more flexibility. They are the founder of developing cities that are based on grid system. It has mixed land use in it. It's transit-oriented and pedestrian-oriented city. And they have made quite success on that. 4 2-lane road is better than 1 8-lane road. A lack of accessibility provides mobility. That's a myth. In expressway, travelers have limited access. It's in the midst of the city. So what happens? They have to go to that next interchange in order to get back to their destination. That makes their travel distance longer, and that means more traffic.
Our cities were always designed both for cars and transit and walking. We had all three kind of mixed together in a fairly wonderful balance. And then after World War II, we lost the balance, and that changed things dramatically. We mass-produced cars, we mass-produced highways, and we started mass-producing housing in the format of these cookie-cutter subdivisions. And once we shifted the orientation from a walkable village and town and a transit-oriented environment to the automobile, then all the different land uses started to shape themselves around the automobile.
The new individual transportation means new freedom of movement to all of us.
The birth of sprawl, it was all embedded in the same philosophy, which was a kind of engineering mentality that we could make our environments efficient and machine-like, where each piece has a segregated and isolated function.
As you build these wide roads and expressway, the population employment balance starts changing. People start moving to different places. You're making everything far from each other. In the development that Limitless is promoting, they advocate grid network, which the traffic is being distributed evenly among the roads. So from one origin to destination, you have many choices and many routes to choose. And therefore, traffic gets distributed evenly. And there's good, intimidate mix of different land uses that could nicely work together in order to bring the origins closer to destination, which means shortening the trips and less traffic.
Civilization won't survive unless we make that transition and stabilize both climate and ecosystems. Most experts feel we have maybe 2 generations to make a transition, basically go carbon neutral, which means no fossil fuels. You have to start with the transportation, shifting from the whole model of the suburb and the 2-hour commute and the single driver and the whole model of inefficient buildings, which alone count for about 40% of our fossil fuel use. The idea of regenerative design is that there's a connection between what habitat we build and the natural systems, and the idea of that we need to restore and regenerate those systems as part of the responsibility of being designers and builders.
We do not only sustain the environment, but we improve the environment.
Great cities are great because they have those great places. When you go to a great city, you feel that every part of the city interacts with you, talks to you, that it has got a spirit by itself. That soul basically that exists. Those spaces have to be relevant to the people need, to have that special harmony, that special relationship between the people and the place. We have to create that synchronization between those two basically, create that magnet and that feeling for the people, and that's what we do.
You know, the ratio of open space and parks and schools and mosques and all the social glue that puts a community together, the ratio of that Limitless typically puts into one of their projects is much higher than you're seeing by just about any other development company. So even though people are living in different ways, different lifestyles, different ages, different incomes, there's this huge domain that's shared and a sense of commonality.
You could think that if new urbanism takes, say, architecture and city fabric and figures out how do you mix uses together to create this energy, we want to do the same thing with open spaces. I mean, a park doesn't have to just be a park. It's not just a lawn and some trees. A park can have a cafe in it. A park can be a part of the streetscape system. The streetscape can become a park. So all these things go to mix how the landscape infrastructure becomes part of that urban fabric, which becomes part of the architecture.
What we're trying to do here for the first time is to create something which is an outdoor space, which connects all the buildings together.
Here's another thing that I think Limitless is really pressing ahead with: sustainable development. Looking at the fundamental infrastructure elements, how water gets into a community, how it's used, how it's recycled, recaptured, how energy is produced and saved and perhaps cascaded through different systems. So it's efficiencies like that which I think are going to be a kind of deep environmental approach that can only happen at the scale of development that a Limitless is undertaking.
To do something of great beauty is always the greatest challenge for an architect. The challenge, the architectural challenges have been the same throughout the centuries. You know, to have beautifully proportioned spaces, elegant materials. So it's not something which is anchored in a particular moment of time, but rather something that will last and will be an enduring project.
So every city has to have its own character, it has to have its own personality, it has to have its own magic, uniqueness. And that's what we try to do.
What we plan today will reflect on tomorrow's generation and beyond. We at Limitless are determined and believe in creating sustainable communities. Communities where people belong, communities where people can live and work in safe, open environments. We believe in the places by which will always be remembered.